Hello and welcome to another episode of Metal Effort. Today we're going to be looking at this piece of metal, the MonteVerde Regatta Northern Lights Edition, which comes in a fancy box. I'll show you that right now. It's kind of cool. All the little goodies. Came with a converter as well as a couple cartridges. So very nice. And just of note, this isn't so limited that I don't feel good about showing it to you. There's still plenty left. This is 870 of nearly 2,000. So if you like this, you could definitely pick it up. I got mine on gouletpens.com for about $90 is the price on this pen. So let's get into some size comparisons. I've got my trusty little Uniball Vision, just traditional pen. I've got the TWSBI Eco. Notice a different color. I've got Ecos up the wazoozos. And then I also have, this is a little bit of a preview, I've got the Kaweco Sport little guy. And so yeah, weight-wise, this guy is kind of heavy. We can compare it to the Eco, which is a pretty big pen, and this is pretty nearly full. 0.8. This guy is solid at 1.88. So, yeah. This pen weighs more than these two pens combined with full ink, for reference. So, yeah, I'd say 13.75 centimeters without cap. We're looking at 12.2, I would say. And then posted, we're looking at 16.1 for those that want a proper measurement. There you go. And we'll jump right into the dent, the decent, the excellent, the nitpicks, and the terrible of this piece of metal. First off, you can very easily write with a pen without it being posted. I was kind of worried about this because the kind of indent here that makes room for the pen to be posted, I thought might be a little bit short, and it is not up here, it's not like that. But for me personally, it's just enough to where I can write comfortably and I don't feel like I'm totally shortchanging myself on this. In comparison to like the Sport, it's pretty small. It wants to fall inside my handhole. So this is just long enough that if you're the type that likes to cap it, or if you're like writing with a notepad, you want to put the cap there. But for me, I'm handing my pen to somebody else. I want to keep the lid so that they don't forget to give me my pen back. So there's reasons for both, but if you want to use it without, you can. Not a problem. The other thing is just considering the weight, and this could be good or bad depending on your just personal preference. I like thin and lightweight pens sometimes, but sometimes I want something big and beefy. If I feel like I'm feeling insignificant, then I can take this guy with me, and it's just got that substantial feel that if you're looking for that, it can definitely give you. If you hand this pen to somebody, they pick it up and they're like, whoa, it's like vibrating in their hand. It's like Harry Potter grabbing his first wand. So that's something, if you aren't the only one that's using your pen and you want that kind of like wow factor, not just at what it looks like, we'll get to that later, but also what it feels like in the hand, I think you'll be just impressed. Somebody would be just impressed using this pen if they were blind. That doesn't make sense. But anyway, so the next thing I like, which was an issue for me on the Ecos, is the cap is not completely flat. This was like a frustrating like barrier when you're trying to get past in your pocket, and it's just like boom, the wall of China is there to greet you. This, it's curved. It's got the flat part, but there's just enough engraving that it doesn't feel like too like offensively flat. And then you've got the curves here. So it's pretty easy. I know where to guide my finger over, where on the Eco, I don't know which direction to like put my finger sometimes when I'm trying to get quick access into something else in my pocket. So I like that. And then I don't know if you can tell, but this cap is magnetic. So magnetic on this part as well as magnetic when you post it, which is a cool little trick. It's also got that acoustic value to it that when you kind of let it go, it has that very distinct kind of popping sound of like, oh, yep, there it is. And so again, part of that substantial feel, it's weight in your hand, it's audible, very kinetic using it like that, which is cool. Also, on the practical end, it's just fast. It's like instant access. Boom, it's ready to go. You know, sometimes it feels a little silly. You hand this to somebody and it's like, how do I get this sucker open? You know, where this is, bam, you're ready to go. So I like that. The other, like, probably important thing is that it writes pretty well. So let's see if I have a hard start. Nope, I didn't. Okay, so it's not, I would say, comparing it to the Eco, the actual writing part, I like. I think it's just as smooth. The line is just as consistent. It's, you know, not like that medium nib that I had. This is a fine nib. I will say this nib is a little bit more medium than the fine Eco, but it'd be like it's somewhere in between fine and medium, I guess, of the two Ecos, if you have any experience with that. Which I like. That's like right in my wheelhouse where I'm getting something a little bit more beefy without getting all bleedy and goopy and whatever else. The one thing I will note, kind of a preview into a nitpick, but I had this paper on my couch, and so I had it at a little bit of an angle because I had like a pillow on my leg, and just that small angle change was enough for this pen to want to like give up. I would say, I don't know, maybe every 3 sentences I would have like a hard start to, ooh, there, I just did it, perfect. So that was kind of annoying to me. I've written a lot with the Eco, testing it out, and you know, I did a lot of things here. 10 points to Gryffindor if you can tell me what I was doing here. But that did not give me a single hard start the entire time, and it was in the same like not ideal situation where I was kind of tilted up and I was writing. So obviously it's a fountain pen. You got to let the ink flow down toward gravity. So you could say you're using it wrong, and I understand that and I get that. So that's why I'm not bringing it up in the nitpick, but it is something that other pens can do that this one wasn't. But aside from that, if I'm writing flat for the most part, it's not an issue. It's something that doesn't like cause me great anguish. It's a very good writer. It's smooth. I like it. The clip on this is very nice. So this is one, I'm comparing it a lot to the Eco because I'm a noob. I'm fresh to this world, and really I have the most experience with my 2 Ecos. And so this is more a review by comparison than anything, but this clip is frustrating on the Eco. It's kind of wider than it needs to be, and it doesn't have a lot of give, and it's harder than you would think to get your pants up into that clip. This one has enough of a lift up there, more so than the Eco clip does. And then it being shorter, you got less like tension to fight against. It kind of makes it look goofy with such a short clip. So I don't know, I kind of like the design of this, but maybe if it was longer, that might be better. But overall, I think it's definitely an improvement to the Eco, and it's easier for me to get in and out. And it's just very rounded, and so I'm not hitting those sharp edges as badly as I am kind of this more blocky design on the Eco, which is cool. The other thing is, I'll take this apart quickly here. I mentioned the converter. The converter is actually pretty nice. So I'm not going to do it, but if you want to take the converter out, it's just you kind of stick it in and it's held there by just the pressure of like the little intake that it goes into. This is actually threaded. So on this demonstrator part here, it's not a demonstrator pen, obviously, but on the part where I can see the ink, that it's threaded on that plastic. So you can screw in, you know that you're getting full contact, you know that you've gone deep enough, and it's going to stay in there. It's not going to come out accidentally like some other pens sometimes do. So I like that. That's good. And notice just, this isn't so much a nitpick, but just the difference in capacity for ink. There is a difference. This is more in the ballpark of most pens, fountain pens, and the Eco is the one that's like freakishly way more ink than your average pen. But it's not that bad. I mean, filling ink is part of the fun, I guess. As long as you're not caught with your pants down when you really need it. Next thing we're going to get into is the Excellent. And I only have one thing in my Excellent, so I restrained myself a little bit today. So we talked about like the feel of it, the sound of it. Really, this is the love it or the hate it part of it. That this looks crazy. It looks, you know, it's like when a midlife crisis happens and the guy or girl gets in a divorce and just doesn't know what to do, and they go buy like a red Ferrari and they need attention. Like, this is kind of like that, I guess. I must admit, I never, if you had shown younger Nehemiah, do you think you would ever buy this pen? I'd be like, I would have to be the biggest douchebag on the planet and also love like unicorns or something. Like, what is this thing? It's got carbon fiber. It's got the studded thing here. It's got, you know, the Northern Lights finish on it that is super fruity and different and whatever. And I must admit, this is like a guilty pleasure. I love this. I love the look of it. I know I am totally self-aware that if I take this out, I may as well make an announcement over the PA. Attention, I'm a douchebag. I'm about to write something. That I'm owning it, I guess. I don't know. And so I'm just diving in, and that's why I took a chance on this. I really did buy it just because it looked awesome. I was fully aware that this might suck. It might be awesome. I don't know, but it looks cool enough that I'm willing to give it a try. Definitely form over function in this case, which is, you know, part of the fun of doing the channel. I mean, I could just buy an Eco off of everybody's recommendation and find out, yeah, it's awesome, and then stop getting other pens. But that's boring. I want to live my life. So that's the excellent part about this, is it's unique. Nothing looks like this. There are different models of the Regatta that look very different than your other average knives or pens. But this is even the most unique of the unique ones. It is the weirdo king of them all. Next, let's get into the nitpicks. So I already mentioned this. I do want to have this clip be a little bit longer, but not if it affects the usefulness of the clip, because I think it works fine, practically speaking. It looks a little goofy. It's just so short. So if you can make it longer and maintain its integrity, then go for it. The magnet design here, overall I like it. But one thing I will say is, if it's in your pocket and you like, it's kind of long, I guess, ish, and you go to like bend your leg or get in there out of your car or something, it tends to want to bend. It does this little bending thing, right? Which is to be expected. I wish that there was a way, maybe make this part a little bit more flat from the post part, flat for a little bit longer, because that part isn't going to be touching my finger anyway for like a little ways. And I think that would give the cap some stability so it's not rocking so much when you're like bending. Now, that's not like a huge deal. The cap has not come off accidentally one time. It's a very strong magnet. Like if I'm just pulling directly out, especially, it takes quite a lot of force. It's not gonna just fall off. You would have to like intentionally take it off. So it's more the bending and the wiggling thing that you just got to be mindful of. The nib does dry a little bit. It's not that bad. Like I've been testing this for over a week, and I think I went like 3 days where I didn't use it in between, and it was a pretty hard start. I had to take it apart and get the converter like screwed in a little bit to give it a little bit of pressure, but I mean, that's to be expected if I'm not using it for that long. But it happened, and it hasn't happened on my Ecos yet, so something to note. The other thing, and this is something that you wouldn't notice unless you had this for a while, this smooth part, this like polished part, the actual grip, when you're rubbing your finger this way, it's so smooth that if you make a movement like this, it feels like you're screwing it, like it's loose. Like if I actually loosen it, it feels like I'm doing one of these, like I'm actually twisting the cap here, or the actual unit. And so it wouldn't normally make me paranoid, but it does make me paranoid because I think it's loose when sometimes it's not. Now, that will be more frustrating to you in a moment. Last thing in the nitpicks, when you do post the cap, it is extremely back heavy, like very back heavy. I mean, it feels like I want to start like writing up a wall or something. Usually, if I don't have to worry about like me keeping the cap, so somebody else gives me my pen back, I prefer to post it when I'm writing. But on this pen, it's so heavy, it actually affects me. I don't care that much about balance. I don't need like, you know, chi or anything when I'm writing, but this feels like somebody's trying to yank it out of my hand. And so I find myself, if I'm doing a longer writing session, that I'll just take the cap off and I write, and I can write like this for a long time. Not an issue. Now's the last nitpick. Let's go into the terrible. So we've already mentioned how slick this is and how it can feel like it's loose. And we've also talked about the rocking of the magnet. Now, those two combined with this terrible makes something that I think is a deal breaker. So let's do it again. This is tight, right? It's not moving. I tightened it. Like really tightened it. I'm like, Urgh. Like at first I was just like, screwed in, stop. And then it would like get loose very easily. So then I'm bearing down. It's screwed in. So then I put the cap on, and then I move it around a little bit, which will happen in my pocket while I'm going about my life. And then by the time I get out, it's loose. That rocking is hitting the nib. So you could see here the impact that's being scraped on the nib. So I'm worried about this for a couple reasons. One, it could damage my nib. So far, it hasn't affected the like writing, but I'm worried that it might be like getting loose or something. You know, it's definitely wear and tear that I don't want there to be there. Anyway, the next thing is this sucker comes unscrewed, and that's terrible. So I'm constantly, instead of going, oh, you need a pen? Boom. You know, like, oh, thank God I don't have to screw something. Nope. Joke's on you. You pull the cap off and you have to screw the damn thing back together and then hand it to him. I'm right back where I freaking started. So that's not good. That is exactly the opposite. I just got a bunch of ink all over myself. Whatever. All right. So I think that issue, if it's an issue that's on all of these, which I don't know, I think I'm gonna contact probably Mr. Goulet and see if he has any advice for me or something. But if they're all like this, I can't recommend it to somebody. So let's segue that into my official conclusion. What's my conclusion? So outside of that main issue, like, who is this pen for? Let's say there's no, like, the pen comes unscrewed issue. Let's say that's not there. Who do I recommend this to? Well, I mean, if somebody's like, hey, Nehemiah, I want a fountain pen. What should I get? Now, one of my follow-up questions is, well, how douchey do you want to be? Like, seriously. Like, I'm not just saying that. Like, tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, how douchey do you want to be? If it's like 8 or above, get this. It meets the douche factor, and I think it does it really well. It's unique. It's heavy. It's, look at me. I have a unique-ish, old-timey fountain pen. Pay attention to me. But who's going to be like, yeah, I want to be a douchebag? Nobody. So I can't recommend it on that really either. Like, I might recommend it to somebody like me who understands that they're looking for something outlandish. But I would already know that about the person, and I'd make that decision. Now, factoring this part in of it coming unscrewed, absolutely I cannot recommend this. This is not okay. This is like downright frustrating, and it doesn't matter how hard I screw that sucker in, where it might stay otherwise, the rocking back and forth is what makes it loose. So it's like a design flaw in that way. Now, I paid $90 for it. I'm stuck with it. What do? Well, maybe I try to find like an O-ring or something that I can put in between. I already tried like thin tape on the threading. That didn't work, obviously. So I don't know. If you got any suggestions or you know where I can get the proper size O-ring, because that's a shot in the freaking dark, I might try to fix that. But as far as my recommendation to you, it is do not get this pen. Unless you look at this and it makes you like salivate like it did for me. And then you're just buying the pen that I have. So it's not like that unique. I don't know. This is all like Enigma crap. So I think this is a good spot to end the video. Have a good one. I'll see you next time.